My mother told me, would a man apply for that job with the credentials you have right now? And I said, yes. And she's like, then maybe you should apply. The VFX portion of Lucasfilm, which is the Star Wars company. And for any Star Wars fan, that's your goal, is to get there, to get to Weta and to get to ILM. Those are your goals. And well, those are my goals. I got the job, and the first position I was given was a position on Obi-Wan Kenobi. And I hung up the phone and I stood up, and like my knees were actually weak, and that was the first time I actually felt the weakness in the knees that people talk about. And I squealed, and then I jumped, and I cried. All of a sudden, I was puppeting the cartoon dinosaur, and I went into full 5-year-old Jabba mode, where I was stomping around and roaring and running and like doing crazy jumps and stuff. I said, I never want to do anything else. Oh my gosh, I knew that was what I wanted to do for the rest of my life.
Welcome to Season 1 of No Credit, the video podcast that highlights the voices and stories of women and gender diverse innovators in STEM across various backgrounds and eras to ensure that their contributions never get left out of history books. Hi, I'm Zeynep Gülertak, Z for short, coming to you from the unceded territories of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh nations. I want you to make sure that you follow this one organization that I really love. They're called Seeing Red Media. Their social accounts are awesome, and the Instagram account is We Are Seeing Red. They're a company that amplifies the voices of Indigenous storytellers through film, content, and events. Awesome. Highly recommend them. And then now to switch to No Credit. All right, we're into our season. We've been doing a few episodes, and I just want to remind you what we do. What is our thing? So No Credit in this video podcast will uncover whether the legacies of pioneering women and gender diverse innovators in STEM and the creative fields were all in vain or impactful and have paved the path for many of us to do the work that we get to do, specifically in Vancouver, BC. So we want to see if they've really stood the test of time or if they've fizzled away. And you'll be the judge at the end of each episode. So don't forget to comment or follow us on Instagram and send us a DM about it. In this episode, we uncover the visionary legacy of Alice Guy Blaché, an inventive filmmaker whose experimental techniques forever changed cinema. She influenced iconic directors like Sergei Eisenstein and Alfred Hitchcock with her bold storytelling and pioneering spirit, yet received no credit. From bringing sound to the silent era with the chronophone to hand-tinting films before Technicolor existed, Guy Blaché was decades ahead of her time, and she made a profound impact on the art of filmmaking long before it was recognized. All right, today we'll speak with an innovator working in Vancouver's vibrant virtual production scene, Dziewanna Picazo. Yes. I think I got that. Oh my gosh. Who has benefited from Alice Guy Blaché's legacy of filmmaking through advancements in visual effects, VFX, and motion capture technology. So I'm very excited to have you. We're buds, and yes. I'm really excited to kind of hit it, and so glad you're on the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I feel like I'm among giants right now, sitting at the adult table.
Oh my God, we were just speaking with one of the guests who's an astronomer, and I was telling her about your work, and she was just like, oh, that is the coolest.
No way.
Yeah, so FYI, speaking of giants.
Me just being like, starstruck by her. She's just like, I don't know what to say to you. You seem so great.
But VFX and virtual production, like the future of filmmaking is what people are going bananas about right now.
Yes.
And it's the coolest thing, and it's being influenced by all sorts of, technology's taken over, right? And you could tell me that. So what I would love to kick it off with this episode and at this moment is really your journey. How did we get here with twists, turns, detours, triumphs along the way? Give us kind of the rundown.
I'll give you a quick synopsis because the journey is like really long with a lot of different twists and turns. But the basic start of it was I was making snowboarding videos with my friends out in Lake Louise, Alberta, just living our best 20s life. And somebody noticed it because I would put it online, and they said that I should be going to school for it. And I thought, man, maybe I should be going to school for film. And my partner at the time said it was too late to go back to school. And I said, I'm going to go back to school. So then I went back to school, and I went originally for cinematography, but it was a 4-year course, and you needed to take kind of a 101 of everything.
Sure.
And when I went into VFX 101, the VFX teacher said, you really should continue with VFX. And I had such a fun time. I was creating worlds out of nothing.
That's it.
In a way that I didn't think was possible. I had a great imagination, but I had no way to manifest that.
That's it.
And the VFX course taught me how to manifest it in a way that was very like play. It was all play.
Yeah.
And so I made the decision to switch, and I'll never look back. I still love cinematography. I'm still obsessed with a lot of the cinematographers. When I watch films, I am looking at the cinematography for the most part. But once I was in VFX, the creative play was incredible. Right. And I was very fortunate after school to get an internship at a tech research facility for film. And they, at the time, this was 10 years ago.
Where are we?
This is in Toronto. So I went to school at Sheridan in Oakville, Ontario, Sheridan Tech. Nice. Really prestigious school. Yeah. Shout out to anybody who went to Sheridan.
Are you
it's
kidding?
An amazing school.
Yeah.
And the CERT Center is a part of Sheridan, and I was fortunate enough to get an internship. It was a really coveted internship. I was really blessed to get it.
And CERT stands for?
Is like
we
the
love our acronyms, so we always need to open them
Screen
up.
Institute Research Technology. So CERT, Screen Institute.
That's a tough one. That's why they have an acronym.
They do technology research for film and television.
Awesome.
At the time, they were researching motion capture because it was relatively new at the time. Right. And on my second day in, we went in, and I walked into the warehouse, and there is this, I can't even tell you how big, bigger than a theater screen projector. And then this huge motion capture stage. And I got into a suit, and they were kind of showing me what it was. And it was one of many, because we were researching a few different technologies at the time. And we had a Vicon system, very, very early Vicon system. And I got into a suit, and they had a cartoon dinosaur on the screen. And I stepped into the volume, I did my T-pose, and then all of a sudden, I was puppeting the cartoon dinosaur. And I went into full 5-year-old Jubba mode, where I was stomping around and roaring and running and like doing crazy jumps and stuff. I said, I never want to do anything else. Oh my gosh. I knew that that was what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. If I was doing anything, I wanted to do something with the virtual production. My first job was at Animatrix out here in Vancouver, job.
How did you get to Vancouver?
I always wanted to be in Vancouver because I came from, when I was in Lake Louise, I was climbing, I was mountain biking, I was snowboarding every day.
Right.
And I wanted to keep that up because it was the first time in my life that I really felt like me. Like I really felt like I was able to enjoy life even though I wasn't really good at any of those things.
Got it.
It was the first time that I felt like it didn't matter if I was good at it. I could just enjoy something.
That's it.
So, because those are all like really solo sports. So I wanted to still live that life where I could rock climb, where I could snowboard. So I always wanted to be in Vancouver. Yeah. I got a job at Animatrix out here, and like, oh, my love to the Animatrix team. They really set me up. Shout out to Animatrix. They set me up for success. I met one of my greatest mentors there, Sarah. She was, she's still one of my greatest mentors.
Love those mentors.
She moved me actually from the artistic side into more of a production role because she saw something in me, and I'll always thank her for that because she set me on such an incredible path.
Oh, love that. I love when we have our mentors and they just kind of guide us along. Okay, so then from there, where did you go?
Where
was the journey heading?
I spent time at Animatrix doing post-production and supervising, assistant post-production supervising, and being a lead artist there, being a motion capture specialist there, doing first AD for motion capture.
Assistant director?
Yeah, first assistant. Yeah,
just
sorry.
for those who don't.
I was doing first assistant directing for motion capture shoots for game cinematics and for film cinematics. And then I was also doing the lead post work for a lot of really big films, some films that I thought I'd never touch.
Right.
And I was able to drive the motion capture to the animation world from there. And then I moved on to Zoic, which was TV.
Nice.
And I learned a lot about the fast pace of TV, which is incredible. It is breakneck. It is breakneck speed. And there's a thing to be said about in film and in TV where if you survive pilot season, you'll survive anything.
Right.
And I remember my first pilot season, and it was the most insane. I imagine if somebody was making a film about making a film, they would want to dramatize it. They would want to make a lot of twists and turns. TV is very much like that.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, and then move us into a couple of the one of the big studios that we all know, and I can't sing the song because of copyright as well.
So
but yes, it's a galaxy far away.
So yeah, I moved to an animation studio and then to Scanline, which is like a lot of my fond memories is there, and that brought me then to ILM, and
let's pull it out. Industry. Light and
Industrial Light and Magic,
sorry,
which is the VFX portion of Lucasfilm, which is the Star Wars company.
That's it.
And for any Star Wars fan, that's your goal is to get there, to get to Weta and to get to ILM. Those are your goals. And well, those are my goals.
Right.
Maybe not everybody's goals.
Right.
And I had already worked with ILM as in all the other studios, because something that happens in the VFX world is that a studio will take on the VFX and then they will hire other studios to do small parts of that VFX to help.
Right.
And so, or the head studio will hire multiple VFX studios and they will all work together to build what they need to build.
Sure.
And so I had worked with ILM at my other studios, but I had never worked at ILM, and a position opened up and I thought, there's no way. I'm not ready. There's no way. And one of my coworkers at the time was like, "You remember Wayne Gretzky?" And I was like, "Okay." And for anybody who's not Canadian and doesn't know who Wayne Gretzky is a famous hockey player.
99. That's his jersey. 99.
And he has a saying that you miss 100% of the shots you don't take.
That's it.
My mother told me, would a man apply for that job with the credentials you have right now? And I said, yes. 100%. And she's like, then maybe you should apply.
I like that,
because
mama.
women,
I like your mama.
Women famously, we will make sure that we have 100% or 110% of the credentials before we apply for any job, where men are very used to applying for a job if they have only 60% of the credentials. And that's not a bash on men. We can learn something from that, where we don't have to be above and beyond before we're even considered.
Oh yeah, they'll move, they'll fix the plane while it's flying. And that's something I always take on. I always think that too. I always like, let's just go, just move.
Yes.
We always want to see 5 kilometers ahead before we make the move. And it's like, just move.
Yes.
Just start moving. We'll figure it out as we go, right?
Yeah.
That confidence, yeah.
And I had my interview with them, and as soon as I had the interview, I'm like, I know this is the place for me. I know this will work out. And I got the job, and the first position I was given was a position on Obi-Wan Kenobi. And I hung up the phone, and I stood up, and like my knees were actually weak. And that was the first time I actually felt the weakness in the knees that people talk about. And I squealed, and then I jumped, and I cried, and I couldn't believe it, because in my mind, I'm still this baby in VFX. I'm still this like young person coming in. I don't know what I'm doing, because when you're working in film, you can know what you're doing, but every film is different. And every, especially with VFX, every approach is different. And you can learn 100 different ways, and you still won't know all the ways. And with the technology growing as fast as it grows, especially with VFX and virtual production, you will never be able to know everything, which makes it so exciting.
That's
because there's always something new.
I feel the same way about technology, and I think that's why we stay. Is that excitement of the mystery, but the excitement of like, oh my God, something new is happening. Something new is gonna happen, and I will not know everything right now because it's always changing. Yeah, I love that about it too. About tech. Yeah.
And like ILM had it right. You're among giants when you're at ILM and you're in the big leagues. A lot of the other studios I worked at, there was always an ego battle. There was always a war of, not my job, that's their job, they have to do their job. At ILM, it was so collaborative, and it was almost as if everybody had known that they made it. And I don't mean that as a goalpost. Like, if you don't work for ILM, that doesn't mean you haven't made it and you're not great in your career. It just seemed like all of these people that have been making VFX for the last 10, 20, 30 years, once you're in a space where everybody's helping everyone, you're able to grow your craft so much faster.
Well, that's it, right? And that's a nurturing environment to allow you to move forward.
Yeah, rising tide lifts all ships. And I saw that at ILM in the best way, where we would have a problem and the animation supervisor would jump in and be like, oh, you know what? Why don't we try this and see if we can fix the problem this way? The modeling supervisor would jump in and be like, oh, if you do that, maybe we'll do this, and that'll help assist that. And then you don't have to do this extra step. And then the effects supervisor would be like, we could probably hide that too in dust and everything. Like, really the coming together to figure out a problem. And that speaks to how well their VFX turns out. You can see it on the screen because it's so, it really comes together like a well-crafted art by a ton of true artisans.
I like hearing that. All right, so before we get into the impact and the legacy of some of the women and gender diverse folks that have come before you, including Alice Guy Blaché that you now know about, when did you know, we talk about in tech, that you're always learning. So you're never at this moment where you're like, you know, your ego is just inflated and you're like, oh, I'm the best, and I know everything and all that. But when did you know that you were good at this? That this was it felt right?
Oh.
And are you there yet? Like, are you at that point?
You know what? I know that I'm good at it. I don't think I'm as good as I can be at it, I think is the appropriate answer to that. When I knew I was good at it was when I was working on Batman, because there was a very difficult problem to solve on Batman, and I was able to solve it very easily after coming in after 2 weeks of them trying to solve it. And I came in and I said, I didn't say, we're going to do this. I kind of have learned that if you want to do something, if you want to do something right, you make sure it looks like you're not doing anything at all.
Oh, yeah.
Especially when you're someone that looks like me and somebody in a male-dominated field. It's very difficult to have my voice heard at a table in a meeting. And oftentimes, if I do speak up about something, it will be fact-checked by the male supervisor 100%. Above me or whatever the case may be. And it's something that I don't see my male colleagues having to deal with. So something I've learned is to work behind the scenes. If I don't get credit, I don't get credit. As long as it works and as long as it pushes it forward. And on Batman, I was working with a team that I had worked with before, and they are I love them. I love them so much. I became such close friends with them. We worked on 4 films together.
Oh.
And it's these group of 4 guys and me. And they're so great at seeing what I'm doing, even if I'm not doing it in the forefront. And I remember making some changes and arrangements. And I remember sitting in a meeting, I was tired, and one of the guys goes, I saw what you did. And I'm like,
they saw you, right?
And they saw me, and I knew I was good at it when I was able to solve a problem that nobody else saw how to solve. And that's not that they wouldn't be able to. When you're in a problem fully, you have your blinders on.
Oh, yeah.
And sometimes it does just take someone else from the outside to see it from a different lens.
100%.
It has nothing to do with my ability at the time, but I do feel like that was the moment that I was like, yeah, I can do this.
Awesome.
I can take on anything. I figured out a way in order to rearrange the pieces in a way that they fit proper.
It's very Queen's Gambit.
Yeah.
It's super cool. Okay, so then we're going to talk about, you did mention that we're witnessing biases.
Yes.
At play. Sometimes it's very, and I talk about, on this podcast, I talk about sometimes it's very insidious. It's very underlying, almost like I've had an astrophysicist mention, she goes, well, it's almost as small as when a man explains something but takes it a little further back to explain 5 seconds before.
Yes.
When he's talking to a woman or a gender diverse person, and instead of like if he's talking to his male colleague, it's just, it's short and sweet because he assumes there's a knowledge there.
Absolutely.
That's small. And then there's large things like, again, the same astrophysicist, she was like, they asked me to smile more and wear skirts. And it was like, boom! So there's
I feel that in my soul.
Right? I feel like there's a gamut, and I feel like we face that, and I feel like it's happened before us. So we have our pioneer, Guy Blaché. She was a filmmaker.
Yes.
We have unsung heroes from the past in filmmaking, directors, actors, writers, VFX people that were unsung. And you mentioned credit and not wanting the credit or not needing the credit. But in reality, what we need to do more of is demand that credit or voice the need for that credit.
You're right, and thank you for that correction.
Right.
Because you're very right. We do need to be more outspoken about, I did this, because oftentimes so many people really get their greatness on the backs of women that have either inspired them or have supported them. They wouldn't be able to accomplish things that they've accomplished if it weren't for the women that either came before them or the women in their lives. They did a lot of the silent labor.
That's it. And you mentioned that behind the scenes,
yes.
a lot of the right, that silent things that no one sees.
For the instance that I talked about on Batman, where I don't attribute that to me being a femme-presenting person.
Right.
I just attribute that to me coming into the situation, having an outside view.
Well, that's huge. Yeah.
However, there are tons of instances that I see where women are brushed aside and men have taken the credit. And I want to take a moment to say I have a lot of compassion for men right now in our society.
Yeah.
We all grew up in the same society. I don't really believe it's their fault that they have these unconscious biases. Just like it's not my fault that I have the unconscious biases that I do. However, it is my responsibility to notice them and to change them. Yeah. And it's their responsibility to notice and change them.
Right.
However, I do hold that compassion for them because I feel like we're all in this great shift in our society right now. And you can harness that chance to learn, to acknowledge your own fault in that and grow, or you can keep going the way you're going.
Well, that's it. Like toxic masculinity, this toxicity didn't help anyone.
No.
It really damaged all of us.
It damaged so many men.
Yeah, a lot of
So many
men in the
men.
process. And so it's the Maya Angelou thing, if you know better, do better, right?
Yes.
I'm going to switch gears to something that you actually, from here, I want you to look up and think of the mountains. And I want you to think of the ocean at the foot of the mountains. And I want you to think of Vancouver.
Mm-hmm.
You love the outdoors. You
Yeah.
love the smell of the air. So what is it about moving from these trials, moving from these twists and detours? What is it about Vancouver that you love, that keeps you here, that makes you want to work and play here?
This is going to sound very childish.
No, there is none of that. There is none of that.
Vancouver's an elven city.
Ah.
It is a city among the trees.
Right.
And if you really think of what in a modern day elven city would be,
Right.
in my mind, it would be Vancouver. I remember the first time I was shooting a documentary out here, and I flew in, and it was the first time ever out here. And I remember seeing the city from above and seeing the mountains encasing the city and the lush greenery and just the small pockets of city life within the greenery. Something about the mountains and the ocean and the forests have an energy that kind of like pulls you in.
Yeah.
And keeps you in faith.
It's insane.
And I've never felt it anywhere else. Except for, I mean, Lake Louise, Alberta, that will always be my home.
That's a different vibe
That's
altogether.
a whole different,
right?
Yes.
But you're an Ontarian like me, and
yeah.
For us, it's very jarring to be working and living in a city that has this on a regular basis, right? Because we have to look out, we have to go and find it in Ontario. Here, it's just right, like look out, right there. And so, there is something. There's a vibe. There's something here.
Yeah.
What I want to talk about is it gave me a little bit of we had a chat, and you have a very powerful message for those. You've faced adversity. You faced it head on, and kind of really barreled through it. Now you're barreling through it.
Yeah.
But you weren't barreling through it at the beginning with the Paris Hilton we talked about.
Yeah.
But I want to know what your message to those facing that right now, are in the trenches. They're facing that right now and they can't really see the light. What's your message to those people? Some of our viewers are going through that right now. What can you give us to kind of...
It's a really hard spot to be in.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid to fail. Failure is not the end. It will never be the end if you have to start over. And every time you have to start over, you're doing it with the knowledge that you had. Think of it like a Dark Souls game. If you're into video games, if you're not, the Dark Souls games are some of the hardest games out there. It's a style of game. Didn't start with Dark Souls. There was a whole series before Dark Souls, but it was coined by Dark Souls. Yeah. And the design of the game is that you don't beat it on the first time. You have to try and fail and try and fail. Every boss has its own patterns and its own animations that you have to work around, and you have to learn those patterns, and you're not getting it right off the bat. That's the point.
I think so,
And every time you fail and come back, you learned something that you can bring new to the table. And every time you come new to the table, the battle is going to be different.
Right.
But you have some experience to help you navigate the new battle. Every time you're gonna fail. Failure is a part of it, and you will become more successful the more you fail.
And then I'm going to finally ask you what you love the most about what you get to do in VFX, motion capture, virtual production.
Play. Play. All we do is play. In virtual production especially, you're bringing imagination to life in a way that other people can see. So a lot of imaginative types, we create worlds in our head that only we can see and experience. But VFX, movie making, virtual production especially, you can create that in a living space for other people to play and create in, and it's the most beautiful experience I've ever experienced.
I love that. All right, so we're gonna do a refresher.
Okay.
You were just talking about virtual production, so I'd
Yes.
love you to tell me, for those who don't know, what is virtual production?
Virtual production is bringing digital production into a practical, physical production world.
Okay, can you help us picture what that looks like on a stage?
So there's many different ways that can look.
Yeah.
Something that's very famous right now and very hip and new right now is the LED walls. Everybody's talking about those LED walls.
They're called volumes,
The
right?
volumes, LED volumes. And what that gives you is you can create a digital world and put it on that volume. It's like a big, big TV screen behind the actors. And instead of the actors playing to a green screen, which is nothing, they don't know what they're looking at, they don't, whatever, they're playing to the actual environment that will be in the film. So they know they have eye lines to look at. They would have the lighting from the environment on their skin.
Oh,
They would have the reflections in things, which kind of we as an audience, we're very used to suspending our suspending our belief.
Yeah.
So when we're seeing something and maybe it doesn't look exactly right, if the story's good enough, we'll lose ourselves in it. But there's a lot of things that you don't notice that you're not noticing, or that will help you be immersed in that story a lot more. Lighting is one of them, reflections is one of them, and virtual production helps with that. Also, the way the actors interact with their surroundings makes a very big difference to their ability to emote and create the emotions and the persona that they're trying to create.
Right.
Virtual production, with the LED wall at least, will give them the environment that they can live in, so they can encompass that character in that space a lot more.
Right.
Another way to do this is with AR and augmented reality, where you could put on glasses and you can then see the space as a director or as a cinematographer. You can see the digital space around you, and then you can put the actors or direct the action in a way that will also speak to the space, because as a director and as a cinematographer, there's a camera language that you're speaking that's an unspoken language that's helping to tell the story and drawing the audience and hand-holding the audience along the path of the story. And that can help you as a director or as a cinematographer or anyone else in that production see the space that's going to be created way later a little bit more clearly. Another way to do this would be to put motion tracking cameras on the camera itself, motion track the space. We did this on Deadpool, where we would motion track the scene. And what you can do is, once you motion tracked that space, you can put the CG character within the space. So you can size up the large CG character to the smaller practical character, and you can frame it in a way that makes sense. So it doesn't look like it's just thrown in there. And then you don't have to make as many adjustments on the back end. So it brings a lot of those digital elements to the practical
while
set.
you're shooting.
Exactly.
We're going to do one last refresher on what is VFX. So open up that acronym for us, for those who need a refresher, and then just give us a very quick and easy, what is VFX?
Okay, so VFX stands for virtual effects. And in film, there's virtual effects and then there's practical effects. Practical effects is the explosions that happen on set. It's the fire, the smoke that happen on set, the very real things. Whereas VFX is what happens after you filmed it, what you do with the computer and put it in post-production, after everything's shot and done. So what happens is they'll shoot, and then we will get something called a plate, which is just what they shot. And then we will then what they used to do on the film is they used to paint it on. And that was a form of early stage VFX.
Yeah.
And now we do it with computers where we're
Super
essentially painting it on with pixels.
Yeah. All right, so we are in the fun facts, kind of like a rapid fire. So don't feel like you need to kind of explain. It's just chill. A couple words. Morning routine.
I lay in bed with my cats for too long. You know what? Not too long. I lay in bed with my cats for the perfect amount of time before I get up.
Perfect. How many snoozes do you snooze?
I snooze.
How
I'm
many
a
snoozes?
snoozer. Oh, as many as I can.
As many as you
Snoozing
can.
is my favorite type of sleep.
I'm going to circle back.
Yes,
I'm going to go to another one. And I'm going to ask you what you tell your 10-year-old self in a few words.
It's okay to suck. It is okay to suck. You can enjoy things without being good at things. There's so much emphasis in our world for creative arts that you need to be good. You need to have something award-worthy or accolade-worthy or something that someone else thinks is great for it to be worthy of making. But that's not true. No. You can dance and enjoy dancing without being good at dancing. You can sing without being good at singing. You can draw without being good at drawing. It doesn't matter what the end result is. How you feel in the moment when you're creating it, that's what you're looking for. You don't listen to music to hear the end note.
No.
You listen to music to hear the whole thing, for the journey and the experience you get on the way of listening to that piece. And it's okay to fail. It's okay to suck. I play piano and I'm just like, I'm not good. I'm gonna sit. And like, that's fine. It's fine to be at my level because it's so therapeutic to play.
That's it.
It's so therapeutic to sing. It's therapeutic to, I make video games. I make little animations, movies, and none of those are for the public eye. None of those are for any sort of award or accolade or anything. They're for me to create because the beauty is in the creation of it and the meditation is in, my meditation at least, is in that process of creation.
Did you hear that? Please create. It's okay to suck. Okay, this is our words of wisdom.
Stay calm, make art.
Okay, let's keep it going. The best advice you've ever received.
Okay. I'm gonna go to a little bit of a darker place for this. The best advice I'd ever gotten was, instead of ending your life, try ending the life that you're living currently.
Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
It was very important to share.
It's very important.
Yeah.
And it's so powerful.
Very powerful.
And the second part to that is, you are not broken. You're disassembled. You're Legos.
I love Lego.
You're like
Legos.
Legos. We love Lego.
We love it.
And you were assembled originally based on a pattern that didn't suit you. But now that you're disassembled, you can pick how to assemble yourself. And you could throw away the pieces that don't resonate with you. It's fine. And you can build whatever you want. You can build a pony. It doesn't matter. You can build yourself in any way that you want. And the best part of rebuilding yourself after you've been disassembled is you're not afraid to disassemble yourself again.
That's it.
If you need to, and reassemble yourself again. But first you have to remember that in order to do that, you have to stop living the life you're currently living.
That's it.
And that's been so powerful to me, especially with the trials and tribulations that I've faced as a queer non-binary person, a person of the background that I had in a male-dominated field.
Right. Thank you for sharing that. I appreciate you so much.
Thank you.
So this was an incredible episode. We had some highs, lows, emotions, twists and turns. Dziewanna, thank you so much for joining me. You gave me so much to think about, as I'm also in the media industry. I also face a lot. I'm walking into this filmmaking space as well, and I see a lot of what is happening. So it's been tremendous to see in this episode where we get to talk about some of the biases, a lot of the biases, a lot of the ups and the amazing projects that you get to work on, and some of the trailblazers that came before you that were unsung, and now we're really bringing them back up and reminding everybody that these amazing women, non-binary folks are here, and we're going to continue to sing their praises and sing their names. And I love play. So what's sticking with me is how you talked about play and how you talked about guiding the viewers and the audiences through the story. These are very tremendous. This is a very powerful position to be in, but I think you see it as a responsibility to audiences, and I love that about your lens and your viewpoint. So thank you for joining us. This was amazing, and we will see you on the next episode of No Credit. Thanks for tuning in to No Credit. We hope you've enjoyed hearing about the incredible stories of trailblazers in the STEM and creative fields. Together, we've challenged stereotypes and ensured their groundbreaking contributions are never left out of history books. Until next time.
This is very, okay, good for her. Yeah. We landed on a space rock. Like, hello.
So when it points at you, you see it, but then it rotates away and you see nothing.
Hers were the first ones specifically designed to power this machine and take it kind of beyond basic calculator status into a computer.
And so I just think of like all of the indirect impact it's having, and I just can't think of anything cooler.
It's okay to fail. It's okay to suck. I play piano and I'm just like, I'm not good. I'm gonna sit. And like, that's fine.
Learning to do things that for you are helpful and positive.
Yes.
Learning how to breathe, the thing that we do all the time. Right.
Yeah, we're from roughly the same cultures, the same area of the world, so we might dance a little bit while we're on screen, so just bear with us. Do you want to give us like the one-line premise? Because I feel like it's over-practiced now.
No, it's just like I have come up with the solution to all the world's problems, right? Climate, of course. We've eradicated global poverty, have true trans-species democracy, and we just had to turn back technology a little bit, and everybody has to leave by 50.